How's it going? Okay, this is kind of big. It just popped in at around 11 at night, and I just kept trying to distill it in a method that would be a bit easier for explanation, as well as putting you guys into a state that would be much easier to understand it so that your brain picks it up with your own hindsight 2020 back on your experience, and you'll see what I mean, and you're able to apply this process and equation to everything in your life. But first things first, you want to set yourself in a state where you are not distracted by anything else, including my movements and my voice. And, well, okay, in a sense, maybe. We'll see. But you want to have that cautious focus. No notification, no alternate tab, no multi browsing. Secondly, you don't necessarily want to pay attention to my movements. I've kept notes right on top of this screen, so you'll see my eyes going back and forth, but do not pay attention to it. As I describe this process and equation, attempt to visualize it with the method that you like to visualize. If it's animation, cool. If it's movie type of visualization, cool. If it's something else like arts and craft in a artistic way, perfect. Use what you connect to visualize. I'll even have some metaphors linking video games and arts. So whatever it takes for you to get this, perfect. And remember, you don't necessarily get this on the first shot. You don't need to. Again, it's not a thing about need, but you may want to play this video a couple of times as well as ask questions. The purpose here is to give you that information in a method that you can just see, one, how you've been unconsciously doing it, whether you did it for something that's favorable or not for yourself, and then two, being able to use it and just boom, go and launch off. So I want to, again, this is why I set this premise and I take these 2 minutes to just tell you, this is what's going to be going on, and here's where you can set yourself in an aspect of focus. And it's not saying that this very explanation is going to be the end all be all, and it's then you need to get it. Yet I'm trying to make it as general enough with as many metaphors and connection between us for you to get the picture of how this equation works, so that you can just go and nothing really will stand in your way when it comes to just that momentum. You'll see, even when it comes to negative thoughts, you'll just bulldoze through it. So 3 minutes in, let's get into it. And I'll see if I can write a timestamp on the description. No, actually, no, I don't want you to skip that. Do not. You set yourself, please. Okay. If you consider the aspect that your thoughts influence your mood, so depending on how you think of things, your mood is affected. Okay? Your mood then affects your actions, because let's take the example of arts and craft. If you don't think you can perform a drawing, or you don't think your drawing's really good, or actually, let's roll that back. If you don't have a good mood when you dive into an action, okay, then your performance is not going to be well affected. You understand that? If you're in a bad mood and you're about to make a drawing, your performance is affected. If you're in a bad mood and you're jumping into a game of Fortnite, your performance is affected, or any kind of game. If you're in a bad mood and you go, let's say you take the metro, okay, and somebody bumps into you, well, okay, before the bumping, but your mood is affected, as you're going there. And somebody bumps into you while you're in a bad mood, then, okay, you're going to react. Understanding this brings you different results. So you lose in the game because you're in a bad mood, and you're not necessarily, your thoughts are on that bad mood, or your thoughts created that bad mood which then affects your performance, which doesn't help you perform well. Because if you're in a bad mood and you're going in the game, you're still bringing that bad mood and have it affect your performance. You might just rage. Same goes with the art. With a bad mood, your performance is somewhat affected. You're not doing it free flowingly and having fun doing it. This on its own affects your next set of thoughts about yourself, about your craft, and about various other things. It creates the chain again. Because then you're going, okay, well, I'm really bad at this. This is really sucking. Compared to this person, I'm really bad at this map in this game, or this game's really a real pain in the butt. And it's like fucking, you see that momentum, right? Somebody bumps into you in the metro, and your rest of the mood afterward is affected. Because for the rest of the day, you're gonna have that instance, and you're going to still stay in that kind of a mood after that action and result, which then creates the next chain of thought, which then creates, again, the mood continues, which then influences the next action. So can you begin to see the momentum that is created by your thoughts alone? Thoughts leading to your mood, your base mood, which will lead to your actions, and results, which will then lead to another set of thoughts, which will then, mood. So you can see how this momentum is kind of like practically to a certain degree, it's practically a core thing in your life. Meaning, if you understand how the thought leads to the mood, leads to the action and result, you can kind of start understanding how this affects your life in general. Your thoughts and your mood affect your life in general, and the results that you have upon taking actions within those moods with those thoughts, generating more thoughts, continuing the mood. You, again, if you can, visualize that for video games, visualize that for your arts and craft, visualize that for life and various things. Do a hindsight 2020 on various events that happen in your life, even this morning, even yesterday, and notice this momentum, okay? It's really fucking cool because you start understanding how I think / how I focus affects my mood, which then affects my result. How I think, you have control over this, because at every crossroad, every event, every result or action, you can choose to focus on the negative to continue a negative momentum, which will give you negative results. We already saw the landslide that you could get by just understanding that equation, or a positive result, which upon you focusing on what you've learned, what you prefer, what's fun about this, even if you're losing in a game, you're always at there's always a crossroad. There's always two choices, okay? Even if you think that you may have done a bad sketch, and you got to watch out for that, because that's all the mind. Comparison for competition, again, all that goes into a negative momentum. That's the mind. It's like, I need to have a determining factor for what is good. Comparing it, placing, it doesn't work. Negative momentum versus you continuously appreciating what you're discovering, what you're creating, what you like about the craft and such. The momentum is completely different. And upon being able to to be able to see those crossroads every time, okay? And doing those retrospections, you're able to understand this very same fact that the more you're able to see and understand the nuances in life, the more you've seen and understand or understood the nuances in your life, okay? In your craft, in gaming. So when I mean nuances, I mean you do that retrospection and you understand what thought leads to what mood leads to what action. Okay, that's one part of it. Another type of nuance is, let's say in a game, you whoever played Counter Strike, remember some, I think it's Dust or Dust 2, the little bridge be below. An example of nuance in a context would be, at first you go below that bridge, and there's a choke point. So first time you start the game, you don't necessarily know about it. You're done. You get eliminated by the other team. But eventually, if you don't get frustrated and you focus on what happened there, how can I change that? How can I, more effectively counter that situation? You become more aware of, there's a choke angle point here, there's a part of the team that could come here, there's another part of the team that could come here. So you list options such as, I could throw a flashbang here, a smoke grenade here. Flashbang stuns people right in front, so smoke grenade, they're going to be a tad bit weary about coming in. I can flank over here, have another teammate flank over there, and you see, you start building nuances, and this impacts your cautious focus and cautious decision. All done cautiously. You're paying attention to it. The beauty of this is when you can prime the brain and explain to the mind, because the mind wants survival, absolute survival. This is cyclical behavior of it all, and some say it would be in genes as well. Yet, if you're able to coerce the mind to have it understand that cautiously by you repeating this equation and retrospecting on what you've done in the past and how it's affected you. Same kind of goes with gaming or art. Then you're able to consciously tell it, hey, let's look into those nuances from a neutral standpoint, not an identity standpoint, so that we can get more nuances to get more control over what is created. And you're kind of coercing it and tricking it at the same time, yet you're also understanding that at that point you'll feel it. You'll feel it that you're being its best friend at this point, and it's being your best friend. As soon as you appeal to its survival mechanism, it's gonna go, okay. And here's a great exercise. If you're dealing with trauma or any kind of reaction, okay, you can have that same inner interaction. And this is where your inner talk is key. If you dismiss negative talk, self-talk, okay, and you've worked your way through it, and you can even use the same scenario, the same equation for it, but you get this back and forth happening much faster, okay? Yet you go back into trauma, you go at it from a neutral point, and you tell the mind, I know you have a lot of emotions with this, but let's look at it from a neutral point. Doesn't necessarily need to be a trauma. It could just be a reaction. You finger pointing at something that's happening. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what's the event, doesn't matter what's the gossip, okay? Your own events, of course. But you start coercing it by going, okay, let's look at it from a neutral point, because I can get more nuances and then I can get more control. And you'll see why I kind of say it in such a way a bit later on. But when you're going at it this way, you're not caught in the emotion. You're able to look at all of it, and you're able to select your cautious focus. Are you going to continue focusing on the negative, like the autopilot survival and non-conscious decision? Because once you understand the momentum of your mood and it affects your actions, each and every action, doesn't matter what mood it is, it'll affect all your actions to a certain degree. Then even in that retrospection and in the trauma, you're going to naturally take the positive decision, the positive choice, because you understand that you're going to get more nuances in an aspect of control. But also, what starts to happen, more nuances could also mean more appreciation, because Just the fact that you're able to do that retrospection and understand that momentum with that equation, you're able to understand what also led to it from the other person's standpoint. You're also able to, depending if it's a conflict, you're also able to let go because you understand this aspect of, again, the cyclical nature of the behaviors being passed down, as well as conscious focus. If there's no conscious focus upon an action being done, then there's no understanding that, oh shit, if I do that, would I want someone else to do it to me? If I do that, what is going to be the next 10 steps and the repetition? How is it going to affect my mood? How am I going to keep myself in the loop of a habit and repetition? And what's it going to do to me in the next two, let's say 2-3 years, but you could even go 2-3 weeks as you understand this concept. Back then, they didn't get that. So if you had tricky times with parenting in certain environments, you let it go. You completely let it go. And that includes everyone. That includes whatever happened. That includes bullies, because understand this, where they get it from, where they learn it from. House life. It's, you always get an aspect of cautious, or actually, let me flip that back, unconscious or conscious selection and decision of what to focus on, as well as negative and positive. So at times when we don't necessarily know the power of conscious focus, and we don't know the power of that positive momentum, what it brings into your life, which is continuous growth, as you keep focusing on what you appreciate about the situation, about what you have going on, about what you love, about what you prefer, about any activity, upon you gazing at something, okay? And you understand that this will affect your actions and performance. Like in art, the more nuances that you have, the more control that you have over the pieces of work. And this is where I kind of explain why I say control. This is a way to coerce the mind, again, because it wants survival. Control means easier for survival in a way. You'll feel a shift, especially if you do that trauma. You clear those trauma or clear any kind of negative reaction. Doesn't matter on who. Doesn't matter if it's the fucking president or some other person who's gossiped on, some other movie star, or your friend that's been gossiped on, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Or it doesn't matter if it's a family member that did something. It really doesn't matter. You will let go. Yet, upon understanding that momentum and how it shifts you, your brain just lets go. You'll feel it. You'll literally feel it. You'll let go. Okay? And because you've consciously took the time to look at this momentum, you will naturally head towards that slipstream of positive crossroad instead of there. You will consciously understand, I am in this kind of thought. I have a crossroad of choosing the negative aspects or the positive aspects, which will help me grow and gain even more momentum. And then, there's a whole debacle or a whole video we can do about everything that you get from that momentum, but you'll naturally figure it out for your own, which will then give you more and more results in life. It's like telling yourself, or finally understanding that you control your own bliss. And by letting go and understanding that not everyone had that conscious choice and that understanding, because it needed to get to this point to understand this. We needed to get all these materials which were impacted and created by people who were asking these kind of questions and interested by that because of their own experiences and various questions around the world. So upon understanding that, as well as the aspect of conscious focus, because certain people do not necessarily focus on their inner work. Why? They were not taught. Why? Because we did not value that. We did not have enough understanding about that. We did not have enough material about that. See how you can just let go? And the same goes for you. Because if you don't necessarily have a conscious understanding of why it's important and why and how you have control of your focus and where it leads you by doing this hindsight 2020 on multiple things, whether it be your art, your game, and your life, then you won't necessarily do it. And that's fine. You don't know what you don't know at every point in time. You don't even have those nuances or understand or have had the explanation of how to see and peek those nuances and what it does to your momentum of creation and appreciation, because more nuances, you can create you have much more control over it. But at the same time, it's not real control, because so many things and possibility of things can happen. In your art, you will come upon discovering new things. Always. You will create and discover new patterns. So it's not total control. You didn't lie to the mind. You just coerced it by telling, again, non-duality. It is control, but it isn't. But the mind doesn't care. Survival! I'm paying attention. Let's do this. And as you go through these events from a neutral point, you pick up nuances, and then you cautiously decide. The same letting go that you give to others, you give to yourself. You know why? Because ultimately, you feel whatever thought you project. You feel whatever thought you hold. You feel whatever thought you generate. It doesn't matter if it's event or person XYZ that's being spoken in the news, or your some relative or some old past stuff. It doesn't matter if the mind think it's them. You still feel it. Your mood is still impacted. That's why you take the controller, you coerce the mind, and you take conscious control of it. Because you don't let the mind run on autopilot. Now you can see, imagine like two gauges, okay? Positive momentum and negative momentum. And every thought that you have raises one of those gauges, like a life bar or a super move bar, okay? And the gauge being raised influences the momentum and the results that you have for actions. If you have a full super move bar for appreciation and positive momentum, then you're going to be like, yeah, flow state, this is great, and you're going to pay more attention to nuances because you are in the mode of appreciation, and this creates a momentum. It attracts more appreciation thoughts. You go into that momentum, it'll be automatic, I swear. It's kind of like channeling in a way, and maybe I want to do a video about channeling later on, but this is much more of a priority, okay? This is why I have those notes, and I really want to get that, settled in a general way that you can all understand. So I'm gonna see, I think I just kind of wrapped around, more nuances seen and understood in life equals more conscious focus and conscious decisions. And that, focusing like that on appreciated nuances gives you the momentum of continuous flow state in life. And you double that up when as you consciously pay attention to that and to your own thought and your thought speed and your internal dialogue. You notice you're able to keep up because your thoughts are fast. Less than a second. They'll get faster as you pay more attention to that. So if you catch that, you're able to understand your growth is unlimited. You'll always catch faster and faster and faster thoughts. This process will be in a snap because you've been doing this consciously, and eventually it becomes autopilot. So guess what? You've just set yourself in a bliss state in autopilot by coercing the mind. And you kind of told it, hey, you're going to get control. And you didn't lie. There is a form of, it is control, and it is not total control. See? Just like with art or just like with game. The more nuances that you have, the more control you have over your action. Again, going back to the Counter-Strike experience, metaphor, or you can apply that to any game. Visualize it in your head. I hope you did it. Okay? You start seeing how, even Call of Duty, any game, doesn't matter. You start seeing how you start paying attention to your movements and the nuances of, okay, well, if I do this jump at this arc at this specific timing at this point of the map, then I'm able to get 2 3 people over here, but I might be caught the other way. You get that experience. Okay, I got 2 3 people, but I got caught the other way. So next time you get to see even more nuances and go, okay, well, maybe they're not going to go there, but I can chuck a flashbang here. You start going into that momentum. You start going full Sherlock Holmes on this in a fun way. It is not a need that's being stuck in the mind again. You coerce the mind and you let go of all resentment, of all that feeling of resentment, because you're the one feeling it. It doesn't matter what it's trying to target, who it's trying to target, what kind of situation, or it doesn't even matter its repeated pattern. You're taking control of it in a way. And a way not. Because, at times the mind will try to get back to that prior space of thinking. That's all right. You'll just go, is this helpful to me? Is this pushing me towards a better appreciation of everything? And you can also kind of put another layer, another block on top, and while understanding that you're overall, in general, you affect people by your existence, which is a great thing. And it always depends on a person's focus, conscious focus. Okay? But by your mere existence, you affect people. Whether it be positive or negative depends on a person's focus and their momentum that they create. Yet understand that you, by default, affect everyone by living. Whether you're in a negative mood, which would get people to wonder questions about why, or also, oh, okay, well, I'd rather be in a positive mood, but I can understand why this person's there. It depends on the person. Maybe the person might not even get that. Or whether you're in a positive mood and just a smile that you give to a person automatically kind of has them wanting to give one back. Society, right? When you smile, another person might want to give one back or might feel forced to give one back. That's internally. Again, it's nothing about you. It's internally. Yet the fact that they try at least raising a smile, and you try that in a mirror. Try smiling in the mirror. Just hold a grin and then feel sad. You won't. Because it's kind of funny when you look at yourself. And also, you can't just jump in a negative mood while smiling. So indirectly, you've caused another person to try to raise that momentum towards smiling, because oftentimes, and because society, you want to smile back. It would be a tad bit impolite. Even if a person is in a negative mood, it'll be like, and that's a little boost. You just impacted a person just subtly like that. You've created a positive impact. And you can imagine the momentum that it'll create. Simply by smiling, right? And that's a direct example. And the other example, again, all of it kind of depends on the person's mood, but the smile seems to be like a direct 180 to 70% assured way to just bring a person's mood up. But again, your existence impacts people. Even your work, even your interactions, your craft, all of it impacts inevitably. Okay? So you put all that on top of the mind and then have it dismiss any kind of old habit. You can use what I've said prior and just to ultimately let go. You understand the cyclical behavior of the habits passed down, the information that wasn't there then, but that is there now, and also understanding the focus that was then there, but the difference between now, especially in the time period, what was going on socially, what we had spiritually. Remember, back then it was one way, one method, one specific way to think and look at things, because you would be shunned by your own parents or by society at that point, which thought that that was the only way because they were taught cyclically. And also we didn't have all this media and access to just pick and choose and look at various philosophies. to then get into these universal kind of understanding. Not one way, one method. We understand that we all connect on the emotional aspect. And we're all playing Babel's Tower for the longest time. Of just, oh well, my definition, oh well, my definition, oh well, my definition. And it's like it's the emotional aspect, which is why I wanted you to visualize. If you're able to make that emotional connection with your own growth, okay, and you understand that learning is practically a growth, which is a different state of feeling about certain things or even activity. Okay, it's a different state of feeling. When you kind of get that, it's much easier to understand why various ancient teachers or even some of the best teachers talk in metaphor, because we will never understand each other's definitions to the same granular nuances and degree of emotion that we have lived it. Our life is so granularly different. That's the hard drive is so granularly different. We all live different things. We all had different best friends, but we can all connect to the same emotions or range of emotions. I'll look at a baby or look at a cat, cute little kitten. We all connect to that. So it's upon understanding that, okay, and understanding that your growth is literally a new state of emotion, you're just able to go, oh, okay, wow, shit. So you tackle on something new and you kind of go, okay, well, what's the emotion that I would have upon my own consideration of success? Not what the mind thinks, because the mind often reflects on the standard. You see, you're switching to a much more positive momentum. And you'll notice, versus having a negative momentum, and let's say you play a video game and you have that negative momentum going, you're going to stop playing after 2-3 games because you're going to get frustrated. Positive momentum, you will continuously and infinitely learn. You will learn from each and every situations that you encounter. You will love it because it gets, just being able to see all this, a bit like Sherlock Holmes, you're able to have fun and go, ooh, I want to try this next. Ooh, I want to try this. Ooh, this works really well. This other person's strategy is really cool. Let me try and implement that. How did they do it, you know? And you start going into that kind of nuance and going, if I was that person doing this, and this, how would I feel? The same kind of goes, like I've tried practicing yoga to a certain degree, and it's the same mechanic. Initially, if I kept thinking about, this is going to be a tad bit hard to stretch. How hard is it going to be, this pose? And I kept comparing to the teacher. That wasn't the right way. It was the right way at the time for me to understand that it wasn't the right way. So non-duality. Yet upon me asking, okay, what are the nuances in this movement to get into this posture? Let's say if it's to touch the toe, front belly and then back stretch. Okay, to which degree is the front belly impacted? Well, I may have to tuck it back in. I may have to find ways to burn whatever's up front to get an easier time to stretch. But there's also an influence in the back. So to the degree that I can stretch that back part as well is to the degree that I can attain that pose. How would it feel? It would feel like just pushing this a tad bit further, just softly pushing this a tad bit further. And you see, just having that inner dialogue in the mind, or you can say it out loud, just to consciously get that. I was able to touch my toes quite easily. And I'm a tall fucker. It was hard for me because I kept having a negative momentum of thought. I kept focusing, I'm not really getting this right, maybe I'm going to get hurt, maybe blah, 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 blah. Look at the switch. I was able to perceive more nuances, and now I can apply that to various other poses to also as a big boost, consciously understand what the activity is going to bring me. So not only do I get the positive momentum, I also get to understand, okay, well, doing this helps me gain a bit more flexibility. It also gains me just a healthier state because I'm not going to feel my bones cracking, because I didn't stretch enough. I'm able to access much more relaxed state because I've trained my body to stay in those positions and to be much more flexible. So I'm not going to feel stuck up later down in life, or even in the current, just continuously sitting. Like, you see, momentum, and you can just talk, spill it out, spew it out, have fun doing this, and notice it. You're literally setting yourself, you took the controller, you set yourself in this state of bliss because you're consciously paying attention to the positive nuances, knowing the results and impact on your mood, then the results and impact on your further actions, which then creates a loop back to your thoughts. Because with a positive mood, you'll get positive thought. With a positive mood, you get positive results, which will give you positive thoughts, which will give you a positive mood, which will, momentum. It's a spinning wheel. And upon you being able to let go by fully understanding, keep saying it again, at one point it gets to be muscle memory. Oh, right, cyclical nature of it all. And also, they didn't necessarily have all this information, nor did they have a situation that would allow them to have that selective focus, because they weren't really taught that way. They were taught to think one way, one method, one aspect of things, and it had nothing really to do with one's own selective focus. It had everything to do with what the church would tell you, or what society would tell you, or what the environment would tell you at that time of not understanding these factors. But now we do. And also, you tell the mind, look into it from a neutral point, and you're going to get more nuances that will get you more control. Sway it. Be its own best friend. Appeal to its survival aspect, and you're going to be able to let go. And you're going to feel it, okay? And here's a master key trick to it. If there's certain things that you really have a hard time to let go, have that back and forth talk with yourself from a neutral, honest, just jargon. Go at it. Just talk, okay? Upon you having gotten rid of negative self-talk, your talk is much more pure and honest. You're going to be talking to yourself like a child. Honestly. You're going to go into those situations and say, okay, well, this happened and, didn't really feel that well, and And at one point, you're going to blurt out an early, cautious understanding, an early cautious folder from those early age. It's going to be blurted out quite innocently, but you're going to feel like you'll want to ball up and you'll cry. But this is not cry of sadness. Do not fall. I'm not saying do not fall. My bad. Do not consider it in the same interpretation that movies, video games, and TVs have. That is a narrative for entertainment. You balling up this time is you letting go from an early understanding that the brain did not consciously have enough definitions to understand at that point, to fully understand its nuances at that point. You'll just ball up. And it's natural. This is not sadness. This is like releasing. And you'll feel the difference. I'm sorry for being a bit harsh when it comes to TV, movies, and television. I'm still working on understanding that specific momentum. Yet you don't necessarily want to interpret those emotions the way that they interpreted there. Because for an entertainment narrative, it is completely different. It is not the same. In movies and shows, people cry, oh my God, it's sad, right? Yet you kind of have to understand, in TV, movies, and everything, characters are written without conscious awareness of them not being their mind. They're still working in the mind. That's what creates conflict, and that's what's, in a way, entertaining. Yet, do not pick up those behaviors unconsciously, nor do not relate them back to you, because we are different. We can take conscious control, and we're not here to be entertaining to someone else in the movie style, unless this is your job. But that's, again, there's a difference between life and scripted narrative for entertainment. And upon you getting that, and especially in the aspect of crying, that ball up, upon you having released it in an innocent way, you'll just kind of get this aspect of being free. It's released. And you doing this exercise consciously, again, like with everything, and understanding more nuances of that exercise, you're able to perform it faster, clear traumas, clear whatever little resistance that you have. You'll clear it because you've consciously got the mind to realize this and how much more control of survival it would have. Control and not control. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else. The thought speed, the aspect of it, you're able to clear this much faster. Focusing on negative thoughts, again, not productive. Yes, with much more nuances, more appreciation, more ease, and more flow in life, so you can get yourself in this much more momentum of constant flow state, which is constant growth at the same time. And again, understand growth, it's not like school, paper, grade, and diplomas. No, your learning is an emotional thing because you're able to pick up that emotion again of your state of growth in that specific pattern, craft, situation, or even life aspect. Okay? It's not a diploma. It's not a one answer, one good grade, one. No. It is your emotional state that you constantly expand and evolve because you've taken the time to learn and grow. It's so fucking cool. And also remembering every emotion that you output, let's say every thought that you output on someone else generates an emotion. Every thought that you output on yourself generates an emotion. Ultimately, you always do it to yourself. Always. This is why there's various teachings saying that you're not interacting with the rest of the world in a sense, per se. Non-duality, you are and you aren't. But the key thing to remember is as you do, doesn't matter what kind of interaction, all kind of interactions will generate a mood. So you generate the mood for yourself, depending on the way that you think and focus on things. Ultimately, you always do it. Doesn't matter if it's resentment, doesn't matter who it's from, what happened in the past. Again, play and replay that whole momentum, okay? It doesn't matter. You always do it to yourself. So understanding that and what pushes you to higher level of growth and also natural positive impact on others, you coerce the brain and you just go. It becomes natural. The brain's like, oh shit. Oh man, it just felt so fucking great receiving that. And what else? Like, I think that's about it all, you know? That's as much as I can put into this in such a general way to try and connect with everyone. Take time, replay this video, but also do your hindsight 2020. Look back at your past thoughts, look back at your past results. Ask yourself, what kind of mood did I have? Ask yourself, what kind of thoughts did I have prior to that? And you're able to see the chain momentum. And then play, because you've just got more nuances, understanding, going back to that and understanding why. And not blaming, because you'd be blaming yourself. It always comes back to you. And just have fun. And please, if you can, share this with as many people as you can. Because the more people begin to understand and take the controller for their life and not letting the mind run on autopilot from things that we indirectly get from environment, indirectly get from TV, indirectly get from media, okay? Again, that is lag time. Media is lag time. It's got to be done, it's got to do things for entertainment, but when I say lag time, I mean they haven't gotten up to this point that we get from understanding all this and the impact of all this. So you let go of that kind of thinking. You're even a bit more aware of it, and it becomes a bit of an entertainment to look into those nuances and say, okay, so this is how you can get stuck in the mind in those specific scenarios. So you let go of it. You don't fall back, and watch out, you don't fall back into conspiracy theory, because ultimately, whenever you fear, whenever you misjudge, whenever you label, you're still feeling it, and you're still keeping that thought pattern. So you don't fall into that, because that's another trap. If there's resentment, if there's worry, if there's fear, it is always you choosing one of the two crossroads, and it is always you doing it impacting yourself. Always. And when you understand that you have choice and control over your momentum, you'll just take the natural goal and momentum for your own growth and your impact for everyone else. And this is why I'd want you guys to share this with as many people as possible. I'll try to find, like, notice, understanding channeling, there's going to be more distilled ways to explain it. Maybe even different nuances or examples or metaphors that could be used. And if you have your own, for your own life context, and you feel like you can help other people, do it. Do it. But don't make it a need. It is not a need. Those who are ready to look back into their past without resentment, without, being able to unshed this and be readily open for it, even just asking the cheat sheet question, how would it feel if I was able to do it? How would it feel if I was able to let go? And putting the mirror back in front of themselves. If they are ready to put that mirror in front of themselves on every interaction, then they'll be able to understand. But you don't make it a need. You don't make it a, I need everyone to notice. No, you just share it, and whoever is able to understand this and see this and put the mirror, and brave enough to put the mirror in of their own actions and thoughts on themselves. How would I feel if someone else thought about me that same way? Well, they'll get it. If they're not, then cyclical behavior of it all. And you understand that back then, and especially in certain household, if you don't get the right answer, the one way, the one aspect, the one method, then you get a lot of pain. I told you about my past, and I understand that my parents had the same thing, dealt with the same thing, so I was able to let go, but not everyone will be able to bridge through. The pain at times when you're stuck in the mind, the pain that the mind brings from its own perception is often seems like way super big, but you've got control, you're not the mind. Mind, body, spirit complex, you're the soul, you're the spirit. So take control. Yet, fingers crossed, man, let's get as many people to kind of understand this concept, and naturally there's going to be more ways to channel this. Naturally there's going to be more metaphors are key. Remember, we connect on this emotional aspect. So if you took the time just not to get distracted, to focus and to start visualizing this as I was talking, you may have made much more connections with yourself and your past, to then begin or just naturally go on this aspect of conscious focus. And bravo, kudos, you're doing, you just got this. Pass it on to the next person. I'm going to try to make a French version of this later on, and I think with channeling it just comes naturally. So I want to help as many people as I can. This is just fucking cool. And more explanation about the thought speed, more explanation about letting go. Go on the Gumroad link that I had on that initial video about you not being the mind, that very initial video. And yeah, just give whatever you want, or don't give anything. To me, it's as long as it's useful to you, as long as you can make cautious use of it and see the momentum happen, as well as see your results from that momentum, and just understand you've got bliss, you've manually took care of your bliss. To me, it's like, okay, cool, spread it to as many people as possible, give them that gift. You feel great? Awesome. Imagine if everyone else felt that great. Imagine if everyone else took that conscious control. Less drama, right? Fuck yeah. As soon as you understand you have conscious control, you're no longer focusing on drama, so less drama is created, less momentum on that, and it just spreads. Thank you guys, man. And feel free to ask any more questions. Feel free to share this with as many people as you can and ask more questions, so that we can find more ways to generalize this and connect with each other on multiple bases, figuring out multiple metaphors and all this, okay? And yes, if you ask me a question, I will understand that I may not necessarily have tapped into your um, particular scenario or current situation. So I get to, figure out, okay, what kind of nuances is in this situation so that I can tailor this to apply and have people in your particular situation understand it, okay? Because again, granularity of our experience and situations. So to me, it's like, okay, cool. I get to learn more, and I get to understand that there's so much out there, granularity. Let's just find ways to help each other that way, okay? Kick some butts, share it with as many people as you can, and understand you've got the controller now, all right? So if you're gonna start going, okay, why is my life like this? You've got the controller, man. Just pick up the controller and go. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Just steer yourself there, okay? Don't focus on the drama.